Mike Minor used to get up in the bullpen and start stretching as early as the third inning last year. His bullpen mates would give him some light-hearted heckling for it, but Minor was in unfamiliar territory. Minor spent 4 years as a starter in Atlanta, from 2010 to 2014. Injuries kept him away for the 2 following seasons, and then in 2017 he returned to the majors with the Royals, who used him as a relief pitcher. "I felt like I was ready to go when they called down," Minor said of his stretching routine. "It was because of starting. It was what I was used to. More, 5 teams that should tear it up and rebuild." He has since returned to the rotation with the Rangers, but the transition he made in 2017 is one that some pitchers have to make on a regular basis, even during the season. Ideally, the 5 pitchers assigned to spots in the rotation will handle as many of the starts in a season as possible. But inevitably, at least a handful of those starts need to be taken on by a pitcher either coming up from the minors for a spot start or one summoned from the bullpen. "It's the latter that stresses pitching coaches the most. It worries me because my job is to keep these guys healthy," Rangers pitching coach Doug Brocail said. The challenge for so-called hybrid pitchers, those who serve as relievers and occasional starters, is both mental and physical. They have to take care of their bodies in a way that keeps them on the mound, which is not easy because training to pitch once a week is quite different from training under the possibility of pitching on any given day. "Last year, when I was having to prepare, you always kind of feel fatigued," Minor said. In 65 appearances out of the bullpen with Kansas City last year, Minor struck out a career-best 28.7% of batters and posted a 2.55 ERA, by far his lowest. "But that belies the challenge," Minor said. He said he had trouble maintaining his weight and his strength during the 2017 season, thanks to the guessing game of when to plan his workouts. He had grown used to the steady calendar of a starter, and he said it took him almost half a season to adjust. In Chicago, Mike Montgomery has handled both roles as well. He was traded to the Cubs in 2016 to bolster the reliever corps, but he still made 5 spot starts that year. Last season, he appeared in 44 games, 14 of them as a starter. This past Monday, Montgomery made his first spot start of 2018. While with the Mariners, he also did both jobs, but that doesn't mean he will say he's honed the craft yet. "You just have to be aware of your body. I don't have it figured out, I can tell you that much," Montgomery said. "You're constantly learning new things, but it's something you're never going to master. It's hard enough to master one role, as opposed to both." On the other side of town, Chris Volstad was exclusively a starter for the Marlins and Cubs from 2008 to 2012 before his career took a skid and looked over. He eventually joined the White Sox in 2017 as a reliever, a role he took on after making 123 career starts. Volstad has pitched 27 innings so far this season, including a spot start in April against the Mariners. He said that the hardest part of becoming a reliever is the change from a set day-to-day routine that revolved around his starting schedule. As a bullpen arm, Volstad said, he has to be constantly flexible. "It's kind of like the plan at that point is no plan. You have to go with the flow each day and try to figure it out," he said. "The preparation is very different for the mind and body, and the in-game methods change as well." Brocail said that relief pitchers will typically abandon 1 or 2 of their pitches to sharpen their approach. And when they are asked to start, they will often need to try to tap into at least one additional pitch. For instance, Miner said he mostly abandoned his curveball as a reliever, but now that he is starting again, it's returned to being a regular part of his repertoire. More, every team's most recent no-hitter bullpen guys can drop a pitch because they often see hitters only once in an appearance, rather than rolling through a lineup 2 or even 3 times. Relieving is different. You're not really setting up guys, Miner said. You know, you're just going out there, facing a few guys, and you just go after them with your best stuff. You don't really have to worry about setting a guy up for the next time because you're not going to face him again that night. Montgomery said he attributes most of his success to being in the right place mentally. He has pitched almost exclusively out of the bullpen in 2018, but on Monday, he was called upon to make his first start of the season. Against the Pirates, he was 1 out shy of a quality start, holding Pittsburgh scoreless into the 6th inning. Having the right mindset enables him to take on both roles, Montgomery said, and sometimes the mental is more important than the physical. It doesn't matter how you feel, he said. Just because you might not be feeling good, it doesn't mean you can't go out there and get the job done. It's a mental game. During the game, all 3 pitchers said, the mental approach is so much different because they're mapping out possibilities as the innings pass. When the game reaches a point where they could get the call to the mound, they begin to think about which batters they might face and how they'll approach them. This is vastly different, all 3 agree, than planning how they'll attack opposing hitters for days in advance as a starter. The pitchers who do both jobs have to be ready physically and mentally, and this can take years to master. When the Rangers anticipate the need for a spot start coming, they might even attempt to line it up with a start on the road, Brokail said. This is sometimes because that means the visiting team does not have to cover all 9 innings. It's horrible to say this as a pitching coach, but there's games that you only pitch 8 innings. Brokail said. And if we don't come back, we don't have to use a closer out of a closer role to pick up an inning. It's a practical approach to the reality that spot starts are harder to translate into wins, so sometimes they are more about preserving the arms of the bullpen staff. There's a tremendous amount of consideration that goes into even a decision such as moving a pitcher's startup one day. The manager and pitching staff collaborate on the decision, but not without communicating with front office staff. When the spot start might call for summoning a minor leaguer, they talk to the coaching staff in the farm system. Brokail can draw somewhat on his own experience. He pitched in both roles for the Astros in the mid-1990s. But as a coach now, it's a group effort. It's not just one guy making the decision, Brokail said. It's a lot of homework going on.